Alright, this is 1-4 notes. It's just solving multi-step equations with variables and distribution on both sides. So I'm going to skip that first part because that's just PEMDAS writing everything out, which is in the Schoology in the notes, the key to these notes. So for the video, I'm going to do a couple of these. We'll start here with number 1. So number 1, we are solving for the variable y. So I'm going to draw a line right down here on my equal sign. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my like terms on the left side and the right side. So on the left side here, I see that I have a 5y minus a 2y. When I subtract those, 5 minus 2 will give me 3. So I have 3y is equal to, and then I'm just going to leave what I have on the other side, so which is just 3y plus 2. Okay, and then I'm going to get my y's on the same side. So I'm going to subtract this 3y from both sides. And what happens here is kind of unique. So 3y minus 3y, that's just 0. That's gone. Okay, so nothing is left on the left side. On the right side, all I have left over is a positive 2. Well, 0 equals 2, that's not true, so my answer here is going to be no solution. Alright, number 2. So number 2, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to go ahead and see if there's anything I can combine on the left or right side, and there's not. So I'm going to go ahead and get my x's on the same side. I always like to move the smaller x, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Those cross off. 5 minus 2 is 3, so I have 3x plus 2 is equal to, all I have left over here is the negative 10. Then I'm going to go ahead and move my 2, so minus 2 minus 2. So what I have left over is I still have this 3x left over, and now negative 10 and negative 2. So remember, if you think of this as like your team, you have 10 points for the negatives, 2 points for the negatives, so the negatives have 12 points total. And the last thing I have to do here is get x by itself, so I do the opposite of multiplication, and that's division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So what I get for my final answer is x is equal to negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. Alright, number 3, and again, you can always pause this, rewind it, etc. Okay, so first I see if there's anything I can combine on either side, and there's not. Then I want to get my k's on the same side, so I'm going to move my smaller k. So 4 minus 1, that gives me 3k, and over here those cross out. So I have left over an 8, this is a plus, is equal to a negative 10. Now what I'm going to do is get my numbers, my constants on the same side, so I'm going to subtract the 8. So again, I still have this 3k, and I still have my equal sign, and then negative 10 and negative 8, I have a total of negative 18 points. Last thing I have to do here is divide both sides by 3 to get k by itself. So I get k is equal to negative 18 divided by 3 is a negative 6. Alright, number 4, so now we have distribution. So again, I'm going to draw my line on the equal sign. Before you do anything, PEMDAS says you have to get rid of the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this negative 3 to the x and to the negative 8. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 8 is a positive 24. That is equal to 24. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. And that makes this another unique situation. I still have a negative 3x, still have my equal sign, but 24 and 24, that just gives me 0. So I'm going to divide both sides by this negative 3, and when I do that, I just get x is equal to 0. Okay, number 5. So again, I'm going to draw my line down here on the equal sign. I have this positive 4 I have to distribute because I got to get rid of my parentheses. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times negative 4 is a negative 16. Don't forget the k. I still have is equal to negative 10 minus 16k. I'm going to get my k's on the same side. In this case, they're the same number, so it doesn't matter which one I move. So plus 16k plus 16k. Well, when I do that, those cross off, those cross off. So what I have left over is I have a 16 out front, and then I have a negative 10 on the right side. Those do not equal to each other, so my answer here is no solution. right, number 6. Okay, so again, I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. This time I have two things I have to distribute. I got to distribute this 6, so I'm going to do that first. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times the negative 2y is negative 12y. Again, that's going to be equal to, and on the other side, I have a 5 I have to distribute. So when I do that, 5 times 2y was 10y. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Okay, I'm going to get my y's on the same side. I always like to move the smaller one. In this case, I am going to move my negative 12 because it's smaller. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So when I do that, those cross off. I still have this 12 out front. Still have my equal sign. 10 and 12 will give me 22. So that's 22y, and I still have that minus 10 in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that 10 that's in the back to both sides. Those cross off. 12 and 10 give me 22, and that's equal to 22y. So the last thing I have to do here is divide both sides by 22, and that's really nice because 22 divided by 22 is just 1, so y is equal to 1. Alright, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. Let's see. I'll do this one here in the middle, number 8. So number 8, I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute this 5. So I have 5f plus 2 times 5 is 10 is equal to, on the other side, I have a 2 I have to distribute. So that gives me 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative f is a negative 2f. The smallest variable I have is negative 2f, so I'm going to add it to both sides. Those cross off. 5 plus 2 is 7. So I still have a plus 10. And I still have a 6. I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 10 from both sides. Those cross off. I have a 7f is equal to, and then 6 and negative 10 will give me negative 4. Okay, last thing I have to do here is to get f by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 7, and what you will notice here is that that fraction doesn't reduce. Even if you put it in the calculator, hit math, and enter, it just comes out to negative 4 over 7. Alright, let's see. And the last one that I'll do here, I'll do number 11. So I'm going to go ahead, draw my line down the equal sign. Okay, I have a couple of things I have to do here. First, I'm going to distribute this 5. So I get 5p plus 15. I still have a plus 9 that I'm not doing anything with. Still have an equal sign. I have a 3 here I'm going to distribute. So that gives me 3p minus 6. And I still have a plus 6 back here. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So I still have a 5p. When I combine my like terms, 15 plus 9 will give me 24. And that is equal to, I still have a 3p. And then this negative 6 and positive 6, those cancel each other out, just makes a 0. So now what I have to do is I'm going to actually move the 5p. So typically I would move the 3p because it's smaller, but if I do that, I have nothing on that right side. So I'm going to move this 5p over. So those cross off. I still have a 24. I still have my equal sign. And then over here, the negatives are winning by 2, so I have a negative 2p. Then I got to get p by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 will just give me a positive 1, so 1p is equal to 24 divided by negative 2 is negative 12. And that's how you solve these multi-step equations. Just for your reference, to check yourself, the answer to number 7, g should be equal to 5. The answer for number 9, p should be equal to 6. And the answer to number 11 is another no solution. So if you have any issues with those when you're working this stuff out, you can always come see me and I will help you out with those. Alright, word problem examples. And then we are done. So it says find the value of x so that the two figures have the same area. Okay, so here, this first one, I know what my area is equal to. So area is always length times width. So my area here is 10 times x, and there's nothing I can do there, so that's the area for this first box. For the second box, my area is length times width. So what that means, before I do anything, if this whole piece is 3 and this whole piece is x, this whole thing together is 3 plus x. Okay, not 3x, it's 3 plus x. So when I do this, area is equal to length times width. What I'm going to have here is I'm going to have area is equal to 6 times this whole piece here, which is 3 plus x. So you distribute the 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 and x is just 6x. Well, now I got to figure out what x is so that those areas would have the same. So I can call this like area 1. I can call this one area 2. So for area 1 to equal to area 2, I know area 1 was 10x, and I know area 2 is 18 plus 6x. Well, now you just have a simple equation to solve. So what I'm going to do is, again, draw my line. I'm going to subtract my 6x from both sides. 10 minus 6 is 4. So we have 4x is equal to, just bring on down that 18, because these cancel each other out for your zero pair. Divide both sides by that 4, and it's going to give us a decimal. So 18 divided by 4 will come out to 4.5 centimeters. Okay, and again, you can always pause this, rewind it, etc. Find the value of x so that the figures have the same perimeter. So to find the perimeter of this first one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add up all my x's. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 5 is 10. And then I'm going to add up all of my constants. So I have 4 plus 5 is 9, 9 plus 1 is 10. So there's the perimeter of my first figure. Okay, over here, my second figure, if that's 2x, then this is 2x. If that's x plus 13, then this is x plus 13. I'm going to go ahead and solve for my perimeter by adding up all of my x's. So 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 1 is 6. And then I'm going to add up my constants, which is just 13 and 13, and that will give me 26. And here's perimeter number 2. So what I need to do is find the value of x so they have the same. So if they have the same, what that tells me is that perimeter 1 is equal to perimeter 2. So what that says is 10x plus 10 is equal to 6x plus 26. And now we just solve this equation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides because it's the smaller number out of the two. So I have 4x plus 10 is equal to 26. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to subtract 10 from both sides. So I'll have 4x is equal to 26 minus 10 will give me 16. And the last thing I have to do here is divide both sides by 4. So x is just equal to 4. Alright, and then the bonus. The two figures below, a regular hexagon and a regular pentagon, have the same perimeter. What is the sine length of the pentagon? Okay, so first what we have to do is we have to figure out the perimeter. So first I'm going to look over here and count my sides. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So to figure out my perimeter, there are 6 sides that are the length 3x plus 5. So if I said 3x plus 5 plus 3x plus 5 plus 3, that you do all of that, okay? You do that 6 times. It's the same thing as distributing a 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 5 is 30. So there's the perimeter of my first figure. Over here, I'm going to count my sides. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for my perimeter here, I'm going to do 5 times the length of 4x minus 1. So my perimeter here is going to be 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Okay, so now my perimeters are the same. So now I know that P1, which is this side over here, is equal to the perimeter of my second figure, P2. So that tells me that 18x plus 30 is equal to 20x minus 5. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. I'm going to move my smaller x, which is 18, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So we still have a 30 left over. 20 minus 18 will give me that 2x, and I still have a minus 5. Okay, well now I'm going to get rid of the 5 by adding it to both sides. So we have 35 is equal to 2x. And then we're going to divide both sides by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2. So x is equal to 35 divided by 2 is 17.5. But that's not the answer. Okay, so even though you see that right here, okay, that's not the answer. And the reason why is because if we go back up here to the question, it says what's the length of a side of the pentagon? So first you have to identify which one's the pentagon. Pentagon is the one that has 5 sides. Well, to figure out what the length of one thing is, we got to plug that x right back into there. So to do that, we will get one length is 4 times 17.5. That's a 17. Here, I'll rewrite it. 4 times 17.5 minus 1. And when you do that, that gives you, why did I do the whole parentheses like that? Let me start this piece over. Look prettier. Okay, so we're plugging that in for x. So we have 4 times 17.5 minus 1. There we go. 4 times 17.5 is 70. Subtract that from 1, that will give you 69. So the answer here will be D, 69 units. And that is it for this section of notes.